won't talk about that now. I wanted to give a little more background and detail about Burlington Telecom because I think it's really an important symbolic fight, not only for the Progressive Party, but for the direction of overall progressive policies in the state of Vermont. What we have been through, in my estimation, and I would consider myself one of the founding members of the, what we used to be called the Progressive Coalition in Burlington, was the worst political crisis we have faced in the history of progressive government in the city of Burlington. And part of the reason for that is that the Democrats now have half of the seats on the city council, and they are still out to settle old scores from the fact that we deposed Gordon Paquette in 1981. In addition to that, we have a local newspaper, the Burlington Free Press, which is suffering the same kind of business problems that other newspapers are facing with falling sales and retraction in their resources, and they're trying to market the newspaper by scandal-mongering. In fact, I had a public access program on Burlington community television, which, by the way, in Burlington Telecom, you can watch live on high definition. I just got a new high definition 3D for my birthday, so it was fun to watch. My theory was this was an application of one author has a book out called The Shock Doctrine, and I think that's what went on here, was the creation of a phony crisis. I think the original purpose was to try to stampede the Burlington City Council into privatizing telecom. I happen to believe that there were some investors, insiders that were trying to orchestrate this so that they could take the thing over for a song. Because keep in mind, the fiber optic cable has been laid. It goes to your house. The question is who's going to control it. So what they did is they started a campaign of I won't call it the big lie, but I will call it the big half-truth. And the first lie was that Bob Kiss and Jonathan Leopold illegally took $17 million of taxpayer money to keep this bogus socialist enterprise afloat. The reality of it was that Burlington Telecom is a startup business and it's building out. It's still not completely built out in Burlington, which has been one of the problems. The estimated cost of doing that were understated, which was a problem. We needed additional financing, which was a problem. Enter George Bush and the financial meltdown of last fall, when the Bush administration, and I used to laugh when I heard this in the nightly news, was nationalizing banks left and right. The Bush administration was nationalizing banks. I used to just laugh over my pork chops when I heard that. Well, that created a real problem for Burlington because we could not access capital in the capital markets and we couldn't get financing to continue this build-out. And as a consequence, it put us in violation of one of our Public Service Board conditions, which said that we had to repay any borrowing from the city's cash draw within 60 days. And we simply couldn't do it. But you know what? We weren't alone. Burlington Electric couldn't do it either. Burlington Electric had two things in the mill. One was putting on NOx scrubbers at the McNeil plant so that we'd reduce air pollution, and also a $12 million investment in Velco so we could upgrade our transmission facilities. You know, Burlington has had socialist light and power since 1905, and in fact it was a competing utility with Green Mountain Power until 1952, when Green Mountain Power finally sold out its interest in Burlington to BED. And by the way, we also run a municipal wastewater facility and a municipal an international airport and a few other things, so we do have some experience in running some enterprises. Burlington Electric had to borrow $15 million from the cash draw. Burlington Telecom was $17 million. But because the legislature allowed Burlington Electric to issue general revenue bonds, it was able to get bond anticipation notes last December. The Republicans, particularly Walt Freed, put a poison pill in the authorization for Burlington Telecom in the city charter that said that we couldn't use general obligation bonds to finance Burlington Telecom. So as a result of this, we couldn't get the financing. We just were able to get the financing yesterday, when Mayor Kiss and City Treasurer Jonathan Leopold announced a complete refinancing of $60 million, so much for the $17 million threat to taxpayers. And what these folks didn't tell the people of the city of Burlington is rather than, they painted a picture that Burlington Telecom was costing the property taxpayers money. And nothing could be further from the truth. Burlington Telecom pays $250,000 to the city of Burlington in franchise fees. Comcast pays nothing. Burlington Telecom pays $250,000 to the city of Burlington in payments in lieu of taxes. That's 6 times the amount of money that Comcast and Fairpoint pay in taxes to Burlington combined. 6 times what the private investor-owned utilities pay combined. In addition, they save Burlington departments $500,000 a year in phone and internet service costs. $1 million in tangible benefits right now. And this is what, frankly, a majority of the Burlington Democratic Party wants to kill. And what we're concerned about now is we're going to see an effort to try to scuttle this refinancing, and so we need to be vigilant about that. It was my first month on the job as party chair. It was an interesting first month on the job. One of the things we did is said we're not going to take this lying down. We put out a flyer, and it's going to be, I think we're going to finish the distribution this weekend, and we put out, I think it was 14,000 to 15,000 flyers. The Truth About Burlington Telecom, I would invite you to read it up in the back. And the other point was there was the Dave O'Brien thing. He said, well, we didn't know about this. We went to Dave O'Brien with this problem in April of 2009, and their staff said, well, finish your engineering studies and we'll come back to it in September. This was the big crisis. They told us to put it on the back burner until September, and then when we did that, we got called out for it. So I want to take